Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. The wild and wacky Wednesday edition of Main Street Sports Today is off and running. Good afternoon, folks, alongside the one, the only, the man, the myth, the legend, Blaine Kellar. Wade Neely sitting in the saddle, welcoming everybody in to another episode of Main Street Sports Today, presented by TOA of Columbia. Blaine, how we doing, brother?
Trying to soak up the sun as much as I can, Wade. Had to cut my lawn mowing into two separate sections. Typically one go, had to cut it into two because of this heat advisory that's been going on. So glad to not be burnt to a crisp, but trying to still get those UV rays as much as I can. How about you?
Yeah, absolutely. That was me. Last week, got right back from vacation, and my yard had turned into a forest. And I'm with you. Usually, you can knock it all out in one go, but it's too dang hot. The grass has grown too dang much, and so I'm with you there. It is wild. It is wacky. It is warm, I guess, on this Wednesday.
Another W there.
Yeah, there's a chance of, rain. They're teasing us a little bit with some weather as far as precipitation for later in the week, but not today. Going up to 98 perhaps, depending on where you're at. So we're glad that we're indoors. We're glad that you guys are with us. Again, Blaine Kellar sitting in the saddle. We will have a live show featuring Blaine tomorrow. Friday will be a best of during our month of May. So if you missed any and all of our May episodes, number one, you can go back and watch those in their entirety on our YouTube channel. But number two, you can also stick around. Producer Mark Rogers has got a great compilation for that coming up on Friday. Setting the stage for today's show, we got a big show, always a big show, but today's going to be a fun one. Coming up in the 3 o'clock hour, we will be joined, as we are each and every single Wednesday, by our NASCAR analyst, Heather Williams out of WCYB Johnson City, talking all things NASCAR. Gave a little dose on Monday's episode with David, but we'll get into the inner workings there with Heather in the 3 o'clock hour. We'll go preps to pros in the grab bag in that second hour as well. And you guys know what we're here to do. On Wednesday, we will close the show with the weirdest, wildest, wackiest, even the most wondrous news from across the globe. So stick around for our second hour. Coming up here in a little bit in our first hour, we'll be joined by our good friend VALAIR SHABILLA as the summer of soccer is underway. And a lot of it is featured both in and around Nashville. We'll have more on that. VALAIR will get us caught up on NSC, who's back in action tonight on the road. We will talk Braves. Man, Blaine, when did the Braves just become the Mets' daddy? Has it always been like this, or what's the deal here, partner?
If you ask any Braves fan, they'll probably tell you that's the case. I think the Mets probably had their best chance last year, right at the end of the regular season to snap that streak, but kind of dug themselves a deeper hole by not getting into the postseason. Now things are just getting worse, even though the Mets are, I don't want to outright say on a Brave-centric show, the better team, but I think on paper you'd probably take the Mets outside of overall history.
I'm with you. To this point, they have been the better team. There ain't no doubt about that.
Yeah.
But to this point, when those two teams have met, it has been very one-sided. We will have more on that. We'll also talk about Chase Burns and his blazing start. Talk about heat. We talked about it yesterday with David. We knew the temps were going to be high, but the only thing hotter than the temps was Burns as he made a sensational debut. We'll get Blaine's feedback on that. We'll have our top story coming up in just a matter of moments. But per tradition, it's only right. We might as well get into it. We give you yesterday's results. We give you today's schedule. We do all that on the rundown.
This is the rundown.
Blaine, we got you sitting in the saddle today, and we just talked about the Braves and the Mets. I'm going to let you kick us off on this Wednesday.
Sure. Looking at the Braves, Mets, 7-4, Atlanta defeating New York on, was that yesterday?
Yep.
As someone who is not always following the Braves, just got to be sure on that. Wade's Astros defeated the Phillies, blanked them 1-0. Looking at the sounds in minor league baseball, Nashville fell 2-3. Jacksonville, I'm assuming is Jax there on
the Jumbo Shrimp, baby.
The Jumbo Shrimp. Love the minor league mascots. WNBA action, the Washington Mystics defeated the Minnesota Lynx 68-64. The Dallas Wings, forgive me for my lack of mascots today. I'm blanking here. Dallas Wings defeated the Atlanta Dream 68-55. It was the Chicago Sky 97, the LA Sparks 86, and Caitlin Clark's Indiana Fever beating the Seattle Storm 94-86.
Good games on the WNBA schedule last night and good results for the teams of rooting interest on this show, at least yesterday. Let's go to today's schedule. The Braves and Mets have been playing every night at 6:10. They're going to play at 6:10 again tonight, folks. FanDuel Sports South will be your destination. Again, the Braves and Mets, game number 3 of that 4-game set. The Phillies and Astros. Houston with a nice win last night, as Blaine referenced. They'll have a chance to do it again. That game gets underway 1 hour later at 7:10 p.m. The Sounds are underway at Jacksonville. We'll get you guys an update on the Sounds during our MLB segment coming up in just a matter of moments. We talked soccer as well. NSC will be on the road tonight at the New England Revolution. That match kicks off at 6:30 p.m., and you can see it on Apple TV. A couple of late games on the WNBA schedule tonight, 2 9 o'clock tip-offs. One of them, however, will be nationally televised as the Connecticut Sun will be at the Las Vegas Aces. That game is on NBA TV. Simultaneously, the Liberty will be at the Golden State Valkyries. Again, both games getting underway at 9 p.m. Good-looking schedule today, folks. Those were yesterday's results. That was today's schedule. And ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our Wednesday Rundown. Top story, as always, brought to you by the fine folks over at Piggly Wiggly at Neely's Mill in Columbia. Make sure you check them out for your delicious daily deli lunch options where everything is cost plus 10 at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly at Neely's Mill in Columbia, proud top story sponsor here on Main Street Sports Today. Blaine, the NBA wastes no time getting right back to the headlines. We had trades on Sunday. We had trades yesterday. But just when you thought the league might take a moment to catch its breath, they say, no, there's more. The NBA draft will be tonight. It'll begin at 7 p.m. at the Barclays Center up in Brooklyn. The 79th edition of the NBA draft. The Dallas Mavericks own the number 1 overall pick. Barring nuclear holocaust or barring...
Don't say that again, please. As a Mavericks fan, I beg you, don't even bring that upon me.
I'm sorry, I had to, but barring the most unforeseen of circumstances, the Dallas Mavericks will pick number 1 overall, and they will select Cooper Flagg. A little more drama as we get further down the slate, but the Spurs, the Sixers, the Hornets, and the Jazz all own picks inside the top 5. Your Memphis Grizzlies do not pick until the 16th spot this evening.
Losing traction of Wade Neely here on Main Street Sports Today. We'll continue on with the draft order. Minnesota, Washington, Brooklyn, and Miami round out the top 20. The last pick of the first round goes to the LA Clippers, that coming from Oklahoma City. Give you a few names to watch for outside of the consensus number 1, Cooper Flagg, who, as a Mavericks fan, I'm so glad to get, but don't feel like Dallas really deserves him. Maybe, people throw out the collusion talk about that being a throw-in for the Luka Doncic trade. I'm not here to disargue that. I'm glad to get a number 1 pick, a generational talent in Flagg, but some other guys that I'm interested in seeing where they kind of end up in the order tonight. One being from Chattanooga originally, Ace Bailey. Lots of questions about his rising and falling in the NBA draft order. The Rutgers freshman showcased his ability to score at pretty much any level he wanted to, but he skipped most of the pre-draft process. Didn't interview a couple teams, didn't work out with any team. So some people seeing him as maybe kind of a lower top 10 pick. Some thoughts say he might even fall farther than that. But at the beginning of the season, the talent was there. He was recognized as, consensus top 5 kind of player. Just those kind of other concerns leave his status in question. Wade would appreciate this. The other name that I'm going to throw out, and hopefully he'll jump back in to kind of give us his take on it. I think one name to watch for tonight is Michigan's Danny Wolf. When you look at the status, the changing era of basketball that we're in right at now and how the league is going. A 7-footer that can play with the ball in his hands and can play make, can distribute. He's listed as a forward. Michigan would probably look at him as a center with his size and weight. But his ball making, ball handling, all of those things, I think make him a very viable option to be maybe considered a little bit higher. Just to run you through the rest of that draft order, as Wade said, San Antonio picking right after Dallas, Philadelphia, Charlotte, Utah round out the top 5. Then you got the Wizards, Pelicans, Nets, Raptors, and Houston Rockets. And credit to Houston for keeping on to that top 10 pick. Of course, made the trade with Phoenix a couple days ago for Kevin Durant. Still held on to the number 10 selection in this year's draft. 11th, the Trailblazers, Chicago Bulls 12th, Atlanta Hawks 13th, San Antonio picks for a second time at 14th. OKC, the reigning champions, also thought to maybe be on the move with that pick, fresh off the heels of their first title. Memphis, Minnesota, Washington, Brooklyn, Miami, Utah, Atlanta, that's down to 22. The Pelicans, the Thunder, Orlando Magic, Brooklyn 2 times in a row, 26th and 27th. Then you've got Boston, Phoenix, and the LA Clippers rounding out the top spots, the first round of the NBA draft. Watching Main Street Sports today, giving you our top story of the NBA draft tonight. Let's move on to, do we have Wade?
Not
I think
yet.
we've got Mark.
Let's go. You want to go to break?
Let's go to break. Let's take a break. Let's recoup on the other side of this break. When we come back, is it this day in Braves history, Mark? Am I going to have to? We'll try our hand at that, huh?
He should be back by then.
Let's hope. Fingers crossed. You're watching Main Street Sports today. We'll be right back after this.
Deep in a forest at Nashville Zoo, new creatures here for you to view. Phantoms graced in black and white swing high in trees of dappled light. In rocky crags, tall and steep, small antelopes with nimble feet. A wise old man with beard of white, a sentry perched on stony height. Amidst it all, a hunter lies, with coat of gold and steely eyes. A new adventure just for you. Leopard Forest at Nashville Zoo. Open now.
Busy bee, yeah, busy bee. If you need
Hold on, y'all, hold on. I need to make a call. Hey, this is Brianna with Busy Bee. I'm giving you a call to let you know your technician is on his way.
3-3.
Busy bee. Guys, not yet. Not yet.
Busy bee, oh,
Now I'm
busy
ready,
bee.
guys.
Call 775-7833.
Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with Riverstone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe the measure of any person or company is how you treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStoneHandlers.com.
Once more with feeling, ladies and gentlemen. On this day in Braves history, we're going back to June 25th, 2009. John Smoltz makes his first start in over a year and plays his first game for a team other than the Atlanta Braves as the Red Sox lose to the Nationals 9-3. Smoltz allowed 4 runs in the first and was tagged for 5 over 5 innings. We had Smoltz on this day in Braves history yesterday, and he's popping up again, a popular figure, obviously, in Atlanta Braves history, even though there was a little bit of a twist, again, making that start in 2009 for the first time outside of an Atlanta Braves uniform. John Smoltz this day in Braves history. Alongside Blaine Kellar and back with you guys. Apologies, folks. Wade Neely sitting in the saddle. Blaine, we kind of touched on it in the open, but the Braves are literally undefeated versus the Mets. They swept them in a 4-game set a couple of weeks ago, and they've already taken 2 of 4 in this matchup, besting them last night 7-4 as we gave you guys in the rundown. Braves were down 3-0 in this game, however, and came back. So it's not as if they've just been decimating New York. They've kind of had to get crafty with the ways, but they're picking up wins left and right versus their NL East rivals.
I think that eventually some of these wins have to translate to winning against other teams too, right? If you're beating a good team like the Mets, you got to start beating, some of these other teams too. I don't know. I think that has to correlate. That has to translate a little bit. If they can start piecing together and continue to piece together these wins against New York, then it would make sense that maybe they're finally going to start to turn things on, to piece things together. It's been a trying season in Atlanta again, but you got to think that it can't just be one winning streak to hang your hat on, right? I mean, I look back a couple of years ago, college football, apples and oranges here, but when Vanderbilt won 2 in a row against Tennessee, I think this was back in, when I was still in high school, Vanderbilt fans hung their hat on winning a couple in a row over Tennessee, but still had a very bad season. So it's got to expand. It's got to expound. And, against a good team like the Mets, it should.
It should. And, we've seen that with the Braves. Not to make any fans groan, but, I mean, they did drop a game to the Rockies. We saw them lose 2 or 3 to the Marlins. This is a team that, coming off of some momentum, hasn't had it click. And this is, as recent as last year. But I remember my beloved Houston Astros kind of went through this a little bit last year around this same time. They were kind of underachieving, maybe not quite to the level that Atlanta is, but they were underachieving. And then they would peel off 2 or 3 wins versus a AL West team, whether it's the Mariners, the Rangers, etc. And then the very next series, they would lose to the White Sox, or they would lose some games to the Athletics. It's hard to put a finger on this. Atlanta, at its core, is too talented on paper not to start picking up those wins versus other teams, as you mentioned. So it's kind of interesting how it's all shaken out.
I agree. I think you hit the nail on the head there, Wade.
So that's some Braves chatter there. Let's quickly move along, though. And Blaine, since we've got you, I mean, the timing could not be any better. We bring you in, and we've got Burns. David breaks it down on the show yesterday. And did you imagine a better start? Or was this a dream scenario that we saw for Burns last night, as the Reds do end up winning the game in extra innings, but a dazzling start?
Yeah, I don't think Chase Burns could have predicted a much better start for himself. He looked like somebody who had, been coming in off of his, 5th, 6th, 7th start and was red hot in the major leagues. I mean, you go up against this Yankees lineup, start with Trent Grisham, take him down on 4 pitches. You go behind 3-0 on Ben Reich's 3-ball count to your second major league batter. Come back, strike him out. And not only, just a tangent here, did he do that once or twice, 3 separate times in this game, he fell behind 3-0 in the count and got a strikeout. And how do you end your first major league inning? Oh, by striking out Aaron Judge on 4 pitches. There was one bad inning for Chase Burns last night, and it's hard to even classify it as bad. The Yankees, being the all-time lineup that they have, got aggressive on a fastball pitcher, got a couple of runners on, and then a misplay in center field. I mean, I don't know if I want to go as far to call it a misplay, but I checked a couple of times on this, MLB scoring just to make sure that it was ruled a triple because it was a dive on a ball that probably was a little bit of a late run too, that turned into 3 bases and 3 runs, I guess, 2 runs. Ben Rice hitting a solo home run to start that inning, part of the aggressiveness that I talked about. Chase Burns had one not so great inning last night in his debut, which is insane for a rookie's first ever major league start.
Absolutely, and that's what David and I mentioned yesterday. 2 ways to look at this, and I could have saw it going both ways. Number one, you say, "Oh my goodness, I'm facing the Yankees. It's 1,000,000 degrees out. We're playing in Cincinnati. A lot of factors working against you." The other way to look at it is, why not go against one of the most feared lineups in baseball? Why not show what you can do? And we saw him do that, punching out 8 batters over the course of 81 pitches in 5 innings. Did give up 6 hits, kind of scattered them, though. That one bad inning you mentioned, he ends up with 3 runs, and they got the win. And, Blaine, you kind of know where my head immediately goes. I was texting with a few friends last night, and I said, is it too late to get on the Chase Burns Rookie of the Year betting situation here? His odds went up overnight, or they came down. They crashed down after his performance. He was the 2nd or 3rd in terms of betting odds last night. Now he's still comfortably at 3rd, trailing more on this guy later, but trailing Jacob Mizrowski and Drake Baldwin from the Atlanta Braves. But the fact that Burns explodes on the scene like this, it was not Skeens entirely, but it was Skeens-esque from 2 years ago, it felt like.
What I find so interesting is that, after his first major league start, the odds are, trending toward maybe him being a Rookie of the Year candidate. I read a headline this morning that said Chase Burns strikes out Aaron Judge. Preview of this year's World Series. You're doing something good. Now, that's ridiculous to say. Let me pause there and say that the Reds and the Yankees in the World Series would be pretty absurd. What could they even? They couldn't, right? Could they? No. Why was that even? I must have misread the headline, right?
I mean, the Reds could make it to the World Series, and they are playing much better baseball. They're 7 winners out of their last 10. But I mean,
in the championship series, I must. Have,
the Reds are in the NL Central, Yankees AL East.
Yeah. No, that's right. Yeah. You got me back on track, Wade. Yeah. I still think it's a bit outlandish to say that happens. But the fact that the point I'm trying to make is that Chase Burns had such a good performance that it's causing this kind of traction for his team.
100%. And we mentioned it yesterday as well. You got the Cubs, who've been playing so well over the course of the season. Haven't been playing their best ball as of late. They're 4-6 in their last 10. But now all of a sudden the Brewers are playing well behind Mizrowski. The Cardinals have kind of been the unsung team in that division all year. They've won 8 out of their last 10. And then quietly, the Reds are only 4.5 games back. They flipped it to 4 games over 500. Now you add Burns into that mix. We thought Burns might be kind of like Skeens I mentioned 2 years ago. He bursts on the scene, or even De La Cruz for the Reds a couple seasons ago. He kind of is a hot ticket to see for a team that's not really going anywhere, but at least you want to get a glimpse into the future. Now all of a sudden the Reds are playing halfway decent baseball. This guy probably will figure to be a key piece if they are going to make a run in the postseason or chase a postseason berth.
I mean, he replaces Wade Miley in the rotation, and no disrespect to Wade Miley, Houston Astros legend, but you got so much better. The Reds got so much better by adding Chase Burns into this rotation.
Couldn't agree anymore. It will be fascinating to watch. I mentioned his odds. He's up to plus 750. Last night, right after the start, he was down to about plus 350. So some steam came in on him, but he's cooling off a little bit. But yeah, dazzling performance for one of our locals there. Good to see him do that on the big stage. And again, they won the game. They rallied with a couple of runs in the 7th, went to extras, and then scored 2 rallied again, scoring 2 in the bottom of the 11th to win that game. Blaine, while we got you, my Astros, I've been so up and down. I don't really pay attention to them till after the All-Star break, but I keep tabs on them on this show, obviously. They kind of have quietly produced the best record in baseball in the month of June and kind of have thrust themselves right back into where they usually are, kind of in the middle of the AL playoff picture here.
This team, I dare I dare to not say anything nice about them as a Texas Rangers fan, but it seems as though you can never put Houston away. Houston can start slow. Houston can lose its manager. Houston can move its shortstop to the outfield. And yet here they are at the top of the West again. I think Seattle's going to give some serious trouble this year if they can, continue what they're doing. If Cal Raleigh can continue to rake, I don't even want to mention maybe the Rangers are lucky to get a playoff spot at this point, but just Houston is one of those teams that you can't just sit there at the beginning of the season and expect them to lie down and to have an off year. It just doesn't happen with these guys.
Yeah, they got the 1-0 win. They got, like Teddy KGB says on Rounders, they got alligator blood. They just keep hanging around, and they are second in the American League standings right now. I'm not going to go back on my word. I really won't keep tabs on them till after the trade deadline as far as watching, on a nightly basis. I'm kind of just glancing from afar. Yeah. Speaking of glancing from afar,
Astros fan.
True Astros fan.
There,
Hey, the best part is during my infancy as an Astros fan, they had some great seasons, went to the World Series versus the White Sox. But then there was a lot of lean years where I didn't watch any games. We're talking, triple-digit losses type situation. Yeah. So I'm used to picking in and out of where I want to watch these guys. But they're playing well. We did mention the Texas Rangers. They, from afar, Blaine, looked like left for dead a couple weeks ago. They're not playing great, but they're not playing as poorly as it seems like the start they got off to these days.
Anytime you're in the same conversation as the Pittsburgh Pirates when it comes to offense, things are not going well. Things may be getting a little bit better offensively. It's just kind of come and gone. I don't think any of the bats have been consistent. It is felt further every day, both physically and literally. You get farther and farther away from the 2023 dream season that the Rangers had. The pitching's been great and on par probably with what happened a few years ago. But at the same time, 6 runs against the Baltimore Orioles feels like a miracle. And on paper from last year, that makes sense to say, but not this year when the Orioles have been horrible and the Rangers have been quite, not as bad, but the offense has been on par with what they've put up. It's been disappointing, but spoken like a true Rangers fan who's had far more downs than ups. I'm sticking with them. I've got. I don't want to say faith, but I'm still checking the wild card standings to see if they can keep a glimmer of hope instead of trading things away at the deadline.
Absolutely. And you kind of read my mind. That's where I go to. They're 3 back. The only real tricky situation, kind of like we've talked about with the Braves a little bit, and the Braves have kind of got a little distance between obviously the Marlins and the Nationals at this point. But the big thing was you're not just chasing the Phillies. You're not just chasing the Mets. You're chasing them both. And it's kind of what we're seeing with Texas here in that sense. You're chasing Houston, of course, but you're also having to contend with the Angels, who kind of are a little scrappier than some might have anticipated, and, of course, the Mariners that you referenced. So going to be interesting to see. I'm like you. I just want my team. Houston's obviously been in a fortunate situation to be buyers than sellers as of late, but if you can at least be in the conversation at the trade deadline, that does make the last couple of months of the season worth tuning into, in my opinion.
Yeah, outside of that, you're just kind of watching the pipeline to see who might make an appearance in a couple of weeks, who might have a spot start here and there, and that's not as fun. If I wanted that, I'd go watch the White Sox.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was saying to bring it full circle with the Reds, right? I mean, a couple of years ago we saw De La Cruz, and you're thinking, well, we stink, but at least we get to see De La Cruz play every day. I would, if I was in Cincinnati, I would buy a ticket to go see him just for that. Right. And now, same deal with Burns. If they were sagging in the division, I would say, well, I'll at least go out when Burns pitches just to see kind of the novelty. But they're playing great, so maybe Texas can kind of mimic that, keep them in contention as we kind of proceed there. I did want to pick your brain on some local prospects that have kind of been in and around your coverage area. We did that with David yesterday, but we are running up against a break, so if we can, we'll stash that in our back pocket for tomorrow, because I know you've got a lot of good prospects in coverage area. We want to give those kids some shout out. We'll do that tomorrow. Coming up in just a moment, though, we'll set the stage for the rest of this first hour here. VALAIR SHABILLA writes for 615 Soccer. He's our NSC expert. He will give us an update on NSC, the first half of the season, kind of in the books for them. Where do they stand? How have they played? He'll also give us an update on the Club World Cup, which has kind of been in and around Geodis Park the last couple of weeks. And we'll also want to discuss, is the USMNT, the U.S. men's national team, are they in trouble? And kind of where has the buzz gone for these guys? The Gold Cup continues. We'll talk all things soccer with VALAIR SHABILLA in just a moment. And toward the end of this 2 o'clock hour, we will announce the TSWA All-State soccer teams. We gave you baseball yesterday. We'll dovetail with soccer today. So stick around, folks. Quick commercial break. When we come back, VALAIR will join us. We'll talk all things soccer here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia.
If you want the latest in weather conditions, be sure to tune in to our Busy Bee Plumbing Weather Report each weekday on Mornings on Main Street. Brought to you, of course, by Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. We will keep you updated on the latest conditions outside, like severe weather, heat, snow, rain, and even hail.
'Zion Christian Academy at ZionEagles.org or 931-388-7531. You can schedule your appointment to visit their beautiful campus. Again, ZionEagles.org or 931-7531 to schedule your visit today.
Two o'clock hour of Main Street Sports Today, presented by TOA of Columbia, rolling right along alongside Blaine Kellar. Wade Neely saying hello. Mo Patton out on vacation this week. Blaine will be back in studio with us tomorrow. Our final live episode of the week. Producer Mark Rogers making the magic happen. He will publish a special best of episode on Friday as we give you our highlights from the month of May. And man, speaking of the month of May, I didn't plan that, folks, I promise. Speaking of the month of May, there was no team hotter on the planet than Nashville Soccer Club during the month of May. And we'll see if that trend can continue now into June. And to bring us up to speed on all things NSC, Club World Cup, and maybe even the U.S. men's national team, he is the one and only. He's our good friend from 615 Soccer, VALAIR SHABILLA. Good afternoon, VALAIR.
Good afternoon, guys. Man, thanks for having me. It's been a minute. Mo looks a little different, so I don't know what's going on there.
We have not published any pictures of Mo at the beach yet. We might save those for tomorrow's episode, but yeah, he is out today. He's enjoying some well-deserved time off, as a lot of folks are during the summer. It's a stretch here, VALAIR.
Gonna need to get some of those pictures, and I need to tune in tomorrow, just like all the fine folks, because what? There's only so much sports you can talk about. We got to see Mo at the beach.
Yeah. I mean, we could fill a whole block of content, I think, just with some beach pics based on the few that I have seen. But right now, VALAIR, we do want to get you on. We do want to talk soccer. MLS is back in action. That means Nashville Soccer Club is back in action. They're on the road tonight, though. Tricky trip, maybe, up to New England. A 6:30 kickoff in the Northeast as the NSC boys try and continue what was a fantastic month of May.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where once you saw it happening, they went 4 unbeaten, 5 unbeaten, and it was kind of like, okay, well, there are some tough opponents coming up, there are some tough games coming up, and they kept turning out results, and part of that was also getting results away from home. Now, most of those games were at home, so it's a little bit more difficult when you look at this New England game away from home. DC United also away on Saturday. So those are a couple more games there that will, essentially what we're looking at is a month of May where Nashville SC went from a top 4 spot optimist to a top 4 spot contender. And even so to the point where there are even questions of, well, maybe Nashville can push for the Supporters Shield at this point, if they can't keep this going. Now, I think that's a little too optimistic, but essentially seeing them go from this sort of, a team that didn't do so well last year coming in and making up for those mistakes to a team solidifying themselves and wanting to fight for that home playoff spot is a really, really positive sign for BJ Callahan and the team, of course.
The fact that they're, real quick, the fact that they're in that conversation is mind-blowing considering the season that we saw them have last year.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. The historically worst season they've ever had, completely out of the playoffs, didn't even make the play-in games. The turnover between the seasons. I mean, I think it's like we're talking about 11 or 12 players, new players coming in. So it's a new roster, new manager, of course. I mean, he was obviously there a little bit last season, BJ Callahan. But so when you put all these factors together and you see that they are third in the East, it's a really, really positive sign.
Valair, what's the challenge when you come out of an 11-match unbeaten streak? I know they had a little bit of an international break, then came back. Then you have another break. What's the challenge for those players trying to continue that after taking some time away?
Yeah, I think the crazy thing about May is that I believe there were 9 games. Nashville SC had 9 games just in May itself. And that's an insane number of games for any soccer team to play. But what made Nashville SC this machine, this momentum machine that just kept on getting results no matter who's on the pitch, no matter who's playing. They went to Orlando and played an Open Cup match and pretty much rotated every single spot on the field and still got a win in Orlando, which is not an easy place to go and get a win at. And then all the rotation, all the new players coming in, playing every 3 days really brought this team a level that we just didn't know they had, really, where they were able to just get results on top of each other. The challenge is when you sit down for 2 weeks and then go and play Chicago away. We saw it in that first half in the Chicago game. Nashville SC looked a little lethargic, and BJ Callahan said it himself that they were slower than he wanted them to be. There were players who were missing, whether it was international break or just coming back from international break. So that obviously affects it as well. But even the players, when you get in this rhythm, 3 days match, 3 days match, you're sharp, you're mentally sharp, you're match fit. And I don't mean fit, I mean physically. They're obviously fit physically, but fit in terms of being able to perform to their best level. Now we see another 10-day break and another away trip to New England, to another place where the pitch is not great. That's been New England's probably even worse than Chicago in a lot of ways. Both of those are big football stadiums that are not made for soccer. And there's, the turf there is not great. There's been many complaints. We've seen a lot of times where players decide not to play or choose not to play, and managers choose not to play certain players in there. So there are multiple factors going into this. A lot of it does have to do with the break because, while they are refreshed and ready to go, it gets kind of weird waiting in this limbo and not playing any actual games. At the same time, you look at the weather, you look at the pitch, and you look at the players missing for national duty. So there are some things going against this Nashville team tonight in New England.
Valair, you mentioned international duty. Anybody other than Zimmerman that's on that call list, or who might Nashville be short at this point?
Jacob Schafelberg is the other big name. He's with Canada in the Gold Cup. And now, if you're looking at the stats or looking at the games this season, Jacob Schafelberg hasn't really showcased what he can do, or he hasn't been as important of a part of this team. However, look, when you're able to bring somebody like that off the bench, or you have somebody who can run at defenses like he can, it's a really big blow to not have him. The other person is Javier Valdez, who isn't. He's a backup keeper, and even third choice keeper. So I don't think he's going to be necessarily missed from a Nashville SC perspective. But he was in the Gold Cup with the Dominican Republic as well. He probably has returned with the team, but or will be returning with the team this week, but just not sure if he'll be ready to go. But Jacob Schafelberg and Walker Zimmerman are the two big names missing.
You feel like this is these next two couple of matches kind of the biggest hurdle in continuing that unbeaten streak that they've got going right now? I mean, realistically, how long do you see this stretch going on for?
I mean, these two matches are really, really good challenges. I don't see them necessarily ending that streak, if we're being honest. New England did go on a pretty good winning streak in the middle of the season. Well, we are in the middle of the season. In the middle of the season. But they went on a pretty good winning streak. But in all honesty, they weren't, they haven't been able to keep that up. And they also have a lot of changes. And Caleb Porter, the coach there, has had his issues with the squad. And they aren't a juggernaut by any means. And then the next away trip is DC United. I mean, just look at their results. Look at where they are on the table. These are teams that Nashville SC, as the third best team in the East currently, should be able to go in there and get a result. Now, obviously, that's not how soccer's played. It's not played on the paper, and that's why they go out there. I think the biggest challenge for this unbeaten streak is actually Philadelphia at home, which is the game following the DC United game, Saturday, July 5th. That game out there, Philadelphia is one of the best, if not the best team in MLS this season. They have come out with a new coach as well. They have actually sold their star player in Gazdag, but been able to improve. And I think that's just going to be a really good clash of systems from a press heavy system and another press heavy system, but maybe in a different way. And obviously, these two teams faced each other in Philadelphia earlier this season, and Nashville SC got the away win there from the team leading the East. So I think it's going to be fireworks of a game. I think it's going to be really exciting back and forth, and I think the players are going to be up for it. However, if there's a team that can kind of end this streak, I see it more with Philadelphia than the two coming up for Nashville.
Kind of the picture you just painted, VALAIR, though. I mean, if you prefer the wins, but even if you keep the unbeaten streak rolling, win these next two, is MLS not salivating at the thought of Nashville maybe winning two in a row and then maybe Philly keeping their momentum rolling? I mean, that seems like as big of a regular season tilt as you could kind of envision.
Yeah, I think if Nashville can get a couple wins or maybe even a win and a draw, if you get 4 to 6 points from the next two matches, you're looking at a team that probably will be pushing for that first spot in the East, and Philly's already occupying that, so it's kind of it would be one of the highlight marquee matchups. Now, at the same time, the West does have a couple good matchups coming up, and the West is a lot more wide open. However, there's a little bit of a background and a narrative on that Philly match as well. PJ Callan started his professional career at Philadelphia as an assistant, so there's a little bit of that. Both teams again play similar style, and both teams have had some interesting matchups in the last few years as well. Philadelphia knocked Nashville out of the playoffs in 2021. Philadelphia were the opponent where Nashville opened Geodis Park against. So there's been a lot of sort of matchups happening between these two. And it will, like I said, I think it's probably one of the best games to have in the regular season, regardless of what happens. But if Nashville can get 2 wins here and go into Philadelphia, really challenging them for that spot, I think it will add so much more intrigue for sort of the neutral, the not Philadelphia, not Nashville fan.
In this break, VALAIR, you've been covering the Club World Cup. Is that right, at Geodis Park? What has that kind of been like? Seems like you got some pretty raucous crowds, some coverage of that over the past couple of days.
Yeah, I'll say Nashville might be earlier this year when the teams were announced and the groups were announced. I was pretty disappointed actually because Nashville did not get a single European team, and I was a little disappointed by that. Looking at the teams, I knew Boca Juniors were going to bring in the heat because they are one of the biggest teams in the world, in all honesty, and definitely the biggest team I think in this hemisphere. So I was very excited to see what their fans are able to bring, but. A surprise to me was Esperance de Tunisia team. They played on Friday night last week against LAFC at Geodis Park, and their fans, man, it was about 9,000, 10,000 of them. So we're not talking about a sold-out crowd. We're talking about a smaller, relatively speaking, fan base. But they are hands down the best fans I have heard and seen in any sport in my life. I mean, wow. They were incredible, just in unison, singing the entire match and just giving the team so much energy. They end up getting a historic win against LAFC, so that's been cool. Boca Juniors, again, last night or yesterday, their fans brought in the heat. The match in itself was, whatever. But Auckland City did get a historic draw. These people, Auckland City was playing Boca Juniors, and Auckland City players all have actual real jobs that they had to take off to come to this Club World Cup. And Boca Juniors, Bill, player salaries are probably closer to $1 billion. So when you look at these two kind of contrasts playing each other and ended up in a 1-1 draw in Nashville, Tennessee, it's really just an unprecedented tournament. Now the Club World Cup has been held in the past. It was just 7 or 8 teams. Now you're looking at 32 teams from all around the world. I think there are a lot of skeptics for this tournament. I am still a little bit of a skeptic of this tournament. I don't think it's perfect by any means. I do think the fan bases of these teams is what has given this tournament life. There's one more game in Nashville tomorrow night, and Hilal of Saudi Arabia take on Pachuca of Mexico. I'm expecting a pretty good crowd from El Hilal, and as well as Pachuca. Mexican teams always have a good crowd at Geodis Park. So I think it's going to be a good one. I don't know if any of them are going to reach Esperance or Boca Juniors level fandom, just because it was incredible. But I think we can see some good fan bases, and more importantly, I think it'll be a good game as well.
Absolutely. Valair, while we're talking about this and, not going deep in the political weeds, but, there was a bit of a situation. And, we talked about the supporters section on this show and ICE getting involved a couple weeks ago in Nashville. It, to me, is very refreshing to hear what you just said, that despite kind of all of that, it sounds like the international teams have showed up in droves and their supporters have been able to enjoy a great experience here in Nashville.
Yeah, this is all a trial run for the World Cup next year. And while those fans were able to make it, I've actually heard from a lot of people who weren't able to make it. It was really hard to get visas. It costs a lot of money to get into this country. For example, I was seeing a bunch of comments from the Tunisian fans saying that they had to sell sofas and TVs from their houses to make this trip happen. This is a very big deal for them. And the World Cup next year is going to be just the same thing. So those visas are not easy to get by. America is one of the more expensive countries just in general to live, to visit, to everything. And it's going to cost these fans a lot of money. The thing is, and it's not just money as well as the visas. And, Iran has made it in the World Cup next year. How is it, how are their fans going to come here? Those are all questions that are kind of up in the air. And it's not just on the U.S. to answer, it's also on FIFA to answer and make things a little bit easier on those fans. But there are also countries, that might find it hard to get visas into the U.S., whether it's Uzbekistan or Jordan or, and there are some countries that the thing is most countries, I think, in Europe won't have a huge problem getting into the U.S. Because of the partnership, I guess, between the two countries. So it's an interesting mix. I think one thing that I am positive about or maybe just looking forward to is that the folks living in the U.S. already who are from those countries or have ancestors from those countries. I know so many people who support the Italian national team because, their grandpa or great grandpa was Italian, right? And it's like, for me, like if Iraq makes it, I'm gonna be there. I don't care how much it costs me, or whatever. I'll go broke trying to make it there. So, so I think that's what I'm looking forward to see. What does the let's say Iran or Iraq or any of these countries, what does the diaspora population here in the U.S., how do they show up, right? And I think that's going to be a lot more present in the actual World Cup next year rather than the Club World Cup, because it's representing a whole country rather than just one club.
That's a great point there, Valair, that you make. Playing for country, we talk about it, club and country, right? And then playing for country certainly carries a little bit more weight. Hey, speaking of which, I want to close with one last question. Where do we sit right now? What are the vibes around the U.S. men's national team? To me, they don't feel great, and we saw the photos making the rounds. They played at the Cowboys Stadium versus Haiti the other night, and it did not look very great in terms of an attendance record. Give us kind of the situation. Where do we sit right now with this USMNT heading into next summer's World Cup?
Yeah, it's a tricky situation. I think eventually for the World Cup, the fans will show up. However, everything before that has been a little short of a disaster at times. Definitely a disaster. I think when you have a 4-game losing streak going into the Gold Cup, I think that turned a lot of fans off. I think ticket pricing has been turning fans off as well. When you look at the national team picture in the world, the national team is almost less of a team and more of a service, if you would. And that's just not an understanding we have of sports in America. Everything is a product. Everything you're trying to maximize the profits. And the way they maximize the profits by putting them in these huge stadiums and paying a lot of money for a ticket. However, that's not gonna bring you the most people in the stadium. But it doesn't seem like U.S. Soccer Federation is worried about that or concerned about that, because they keep pricing people out. They keep putting games in really weird areas and really weird stadiums. That said, they did win their group. They won all 3 games against Haiti and against Trinidad and Tobago 5-0, and against, surprisingly, Saudi Arabia, who are playing in the Gold Cup, because why would anything matter at this point?
Noted CONCACAF representative, Saudi Arabia.
Yes, the big CONCACAF country of Saudi Arabia. That said, the team was able to get those 3 results, 3 wins, leading the group after 4 defeats in a row. They have 3 wins in a row now, going into this quarterfinal against Costa Rica. And this is, we're talking about the, for lack of a better word, the B team, right? So if without your stars or without most of your stars, you can still get those results, I think it's a good sign, something for Pochettino to build on. But I think the jury's still out on Pochettino. The jury's still out of whether this U.S. team can do anything in the World Cup that would be, beneficial to this team. And there are just a lot of drama, whether it's Pulisic not wanting to come for a specific amount and then Pochettino telling him he's not a mannequin and he's the manager. There's just all sorts of drama. A couple of years ago, the Reina family were, holding the... I don't want to go into all that, but it's really just seems like we're focused on the wrong things here. And it seems, to me, it still feels like this USMNT is miles away from what they need to be for a World Cup they are hosting. I just want to remind folks that this is a privilege that doesn't happen often. Matter of fact, it doesn't happen for most countries participating in the World Cup. So the fact that it's happening here in the U.S. and it doesn't seem like we're taking the most advantage of it, for whether it's the USMNT or just the U.S. Federation as a whole, is a little disappointing.
Disappointing to say the least, but still got a little time to turn it around. And real quick, it does sound like, if I read the standings correctly, we don't get that USA-Mexico match maybe until the championship. Is that correct? And that's always one that you can circle the calendars for.
Yeah, they have a game against Saudi Arabia. So, again, I don't know if that's going to be as easy as they initially thought about. But yes, you are right. I believe that the Gold Cup final, if both teams make it, could be USA-Mexico. I am looking forward to that semifinal if both U.S. and Canada can make it out. Jesse Marsh has been leading Canada into making it a really exciting team. And the last few games between those two got a little chippy. So I'm excited to see that.
It will be fun. It will be exciting. The summer of soccer is officially underway. VALAIR bringing us up to speed on all things NSC, Club World Cup, and U.S. men's national team. Partner, it's been too long. Let's not go this long again without catching up with you, okay?
Absolutely. You know how to catch me. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, VALAIR. We will catch up with VALAIR again as the summer continues to roll along. And as we get closer to the top of our 3 o'clock hour, we were originally going to bring you guys our TSWA All-State selections. We'll do that after a quick break. But real quickly, Blaine, I did want to bring you back in. You've been keeping tabs on NSC too. And for a team that was this bad last year and kind of got off to a little bit of a slow start this season, it seems like they certainly have their momentum. And to your point, I am fascinated to see if they can keep it rolling out of this international break.
Yeah, we wrote a story a couple of weeks ago when the streak had reached 10 matches, tying the club record at that point, that there were 10 kind of groups, 3 groups of players, 10 different players that you could point to that really made up this stretch and helped them to have kind of a historical part of the season. I find it most interesting that it's not just, Hani Mukhtar and Sam Surridge. It's not just some of the guys who have stuck around for a while, guys before BJ Callahan. In the early days, the first year of MLS inception for Nashville SC, it's these young guys too. Matthew Corcoran, Wyatt Meyer, who scored the game-winning goal in Orlando, like VALAIR mentioned. And, Chris Applewhite at the start of this stretch was the key figure because they needed him. Walker Zimmerman was still out with the concussion. I really find it interesting as somebody who's really diving into soccer kind of for the first time, seeing a young blend of talents and seasoned veterans and the 2-star scorers that Nashville has all blending together and forming this product that has shot them from a worst to first kind of scenario.
They are playing very well. And one other thing, we'll obviously talk about this as we get closer, but they do have that quarterfinals matchup in the U.S. Open Cup. That will be at home on July 9th versus DC United. So not just playing well in MLS, they're making a great run here in the U.S. Open Cup. So a chance for big things and big vibes for NSC as we kind of creep closer and closer toward the end of summer here. They're playing very well. And again, they're back in action tonight. You can see it on Apple TV on the road at New England. They'll also be on the road Saturday over at DC United. We're going to take a quick time out just shy of the 3 o'clock marker here. But when we come back, we will get into the grab bag and we will bring you guys the TSWA All-State Soccer selections. Gave you guys baseball yesterday. We'll stay with the footy theme here in just a moment on the other side of this timeout and tell you who made All-State. All of that and more coming your way right after this on Main Street Sports Today, presented by TOA of Columbia.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy at zioneagles.org or 931-388-7531. You can schedule your appointment to visit their beautiful campus. Again, zioneagles.org or 931-7531 to schedule your visit today. Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with Riverstone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe the measure of any person or company is how you treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStoneHandlers.com.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Hour number 2 of Main Street Sports Today, presented as always by our friends at the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, begins right now. Big show today. We've already had a great first hour. We just sat down for about 20 minutes with our good friend and NSC expert VALAIR SHABILLA. Coming up here in just a matter of moments, Heather Williams of WCYB Johnson City will join us. We'll talk all things NASCAR. And at the end, you know what it is, folks. It's Wild and Wacky Wednesday. Blaine and I will bring you the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest news from across the globe. You're not going to want to miss that. But before we go any further, we teased it earlier, and we talked about baseball yesterday, but the TSWA, the Tennessee Sports Writers Association, has announced officially yet another selection of All-State nominees and performers. And it's time to get into the soccer. We wanted to keep that in the theme of having VALAIR on a moment ago. So, Blaine, if you have got our award winners, I say we get things started. Let's have you handle our Class A winners here.
Yes, sir. So in Class A, you've really pretty much got a bulk of the honorees being from state champion Independence Academy and runner-up STEM Prep, both out of Nashville. 2 goalkeepers being from either of those clubs, Edgar Benitez and Edwin Ramirez. Tristan Ramirez of Independence Academy, one of 3 forwards honored. Gatlinburg Pittman's Brandon Ramirez and Chattanooga Prep's Adric Hall round out that bunch. In the midfield, it's Josimar Marcos of Madison Academic, Adam Atkinson of Lakeland Prep, Diego Pita, again, of runner-up STEM Prep, and Jonathan Valdez of Pigeon Forge. 3 defenders round out the group. In Class A, got Darwin Gomez from Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg Pittman's Caden Brooks, and I don't know if this is right, but this is how I've chosen to go with the pronunciation, Stephen Colbert of Gatlinburg Pittman. That's Stiven. Colbert. So that's Class A.
Yeah, I'm with you. We'll go with that until somebody corrects us. And anytime you get a Stephen Colbert reference on this show, you're in good shape. Great group. Great, absolutely. Great group there in Single A. Let's peel into Class Double A. Your goalkeepers were Jonah Mitchell from South Doyle and Holden Preston, a junior from Station Camp. Station Camp well represented on this list, as you might expect. But Angel Fuentes was a junior forward, and he was one of 3 forwards selected alongside Cameron Harp of South Doyle and Christian Sentz of Giles County, right here in my neck of the woods. Quick shout out to Christian. He's going to play next year at UT Southern. He departs as the all-time goal scorer in Giles County boys soccer history with 93 career goals. Great season, great career. Worthy all-state selection there for Christian. In the midfield, Roger Asaguera Cruz. Hopefully I got that right, but he's from South Doyle. He's a junior. Also in the midfield, Diego Silva from David Crockett. Ryan Hendon from Station Camp. I told you there'd be a few more Station Camp folks on this list. And your final midfielder is Jeffrey Benegas Sosa from Fulton High School. 3 defenders. Finn Strasvogel from South Doyle, Will Williams from Station Camp, and Denise Reyna Padilla from Fulton are your defenders.
Yeah,
I was scrambling to see our goalkeepers here, and the link I have does not have those listed. I'll see if I can dig that up real quick while you tackle AAA.
Yeah, 4 Station Camp honorees might seem like a lot, but you got to look at the Station Camp team across the whole of the season. They were one of the best teams in the state, that being from covering them all year. We'll go to Class AAA. Goalkeepers Logan Nelson of Bearden and Hardin Valley's Adam Leonard. 3 forwards, one of which Hardin Valley's Ben Brophy. Got Bartlett's Maddox Tilwigger and Aiden Piermont of Page. He's a junior. Midfield includes Frankie Manrod of Hardin Valley, Arturo Ramirez of Bartlett. Tristiano Alfano led Franklin's undefeated season until they lost to this other midfielder, Sonny French of Hendersonville, in Class AAA quarterfinals. Defenders include Lincoln Unger of Farragut, Chase Brockman from Franklin, and Ravenwood's Tyler Coase. That's Class AAA in TSWA.
Absolutely. And I got backwards earlier. I gave the goalkeepers for 2A. So I feel a little better now. The order of the listing kind of threw me off there, but I digress. That's just operator error. We'll chalk that up too, folks. Division 2A, let's go to the goalkeepers. Hunter Tollison from Franklin Road Academy and Stephen Sampson from Grace Christian Academy, Knoxville. Those were your two goalkeepers that were recognized, along with Felipe Evans from Christian Academy, Knoxville, Andrew Pollard from Boyd Buchanan, and Colby Stokely from Christian Academy of Knoxville. Those were your three forwards. Four at the midfield, Pedro Uganero from Grace Christian Academy, Knoxville, Najee Gondor from Lausanne over there in West Tennessee, who's a senior gracing the list here, alongside Diego Dorado from Grace Christian Academy, Knoxville, and Victor Campasita from Webb Bell Buckle. Young sophomore on the list, so good to see him. Promising future there. Three defenders, Carson Lee from Grace Christian Academy, Knoxville, Sam Dyer from Lausanne, again over in West Tennessee, and right here in the mid-state, Webb School Bell Buckle, Darren Ferguson, a senior, rounds out your Division 2A list.
Speaking of the mid-state, Division 2 AA Middle Region is well represented as we wrap up the TSWA All-State Soccer Team. Let's start with Ensworth senior Graham Smith in the goal, and then of state champion Montgomery Bell Academy, it's Hayes Weller, a junior for the Big Red. Camden Holiday of Christ Presbyterian Academy, he's a forward and continues that mid-state trend. Alejandro Dominguez and Ethan Regis of Macaulay School and Chattanooga Christian are your other forwards that made All-State. Hayden Mulrooney of Christian Brothers, Bo Robbins of MBA, and Terrence Reynolds of Ensworth School. Brooks Hilger, Macaulay School also make up the midfield. And then in the defensive third, you've got Cyan Dali of MBA, Darius Ochiri. Let's hope that's right. Hope that's a cheery pronunciation of Macaulay. Mm-hmm. And then Irvin Tucker of Chattanooga Christian School. He's a senior, and he wraps up the Tennessee Sports Writers Association All-State Soccer Team.
Great list there. Blaine, do you have the schedule of the rest of our announcements? I know we got a couple more still coming.
Yes, I do. Up next is the TSWA All-State Tennis Team. Track and field is after that. And then to round out the week, we've got softball, which was written and composed by yours truly. So if you take issue with it, you know who to contact there.
We will get the fruit ready and come pepper you if we need to. But no, thanks to all of our writers, thanks to all of our voters, thanks to all of our nominees, and certainly thanks to all of and congrats to all of our winners. We will bring you another list hopefully on tomorrow's show as we continue. And then if you miss any others, you can find them on all of our Main Street sports properties there. Dipping further into the grab bag, kind of continuing to talk preps, Blaine. Found this story. This is from footballscoop.com. But an interesting law is going to change the way that things go in Kentucky. And I can just stop the story right there. But we're talking about high school athletics here. And this is an interesting story, again, from footballscoop.com. It turns out that a new high school state law, if you are a coach and you like, retweet, or comment on any sort of material or perhaps even text a player, that new state law in Kentucky, you're going to be in violation. They're kind of trying to protect all electronic communication between coaches and students through messaging, whether it's text, like I said, third-party apps like Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp, and all social media. My question is, this was maybe an unforeseen circumstance. I kind of sort of get the law in a sweeping capacity for all students. But, man, they're really kind of tightening the way in the cans and can'ts of what these coaches can do in Kentucky, it sounds like.
Yeah, based on what the story reports on, the Louisville Courier-Journal reported in December that there were more than 80 cases of sexual misconduct between middle and high school coaches and the players over a 15-year period. I think props to the LCJ for finding that information and for reporting on that. And kudos to the Kentucky government, I suppose, the lawmakers for kind of making action against it. Seems like, I mean, I think that if you didn't make a sweeping motion across all social media platforms, then coaches may try to find a loophole like X or Instagram or something where they could, follow an athlete and repost things and stuff like that. Seems like you said, it is kind of a tight leash, but might be an important one to have.
I think so. And I'm kind of, I'm not a football coach in Kentucky, so this impacts me a little bit differently, of course. But I get this, and I do obviously see the massive need and value and merit there. Football and other sports kind of being a casualty, so to speak, but also in the grand scheme of things, football and other sports are kind of lower on the priority list that they are targeting. You can use school-approved traceable platforms, which we didn't use. We didn't have such a thing as Google Classroom or Parent Square back when I was in high school, Blaine. So I don't even necessarily know how those operate, but you can kind of contact using those. You can include parents in direct communications when it's allowed by district. You can also communicate on a few other odds and ends. So it's not as if a coach has no ability to communicate a practice or a change in schedule or a change in plans or a workout routine or something of that nature. There are still some ways, but in Kentucky, you cannot send a private text again, no personal emails, no social media comments. Kind of fascinating that they went so far as to say no likes, no comments, or no retweets of anything. I don't know who's policing and searching for the likes. Who's doing that? Who's checking on the double taps on Instagram for these football players is what I want to know.
Does the principal have to get X Premium to track likes? I don't even know if you can do that on X anymore, but man, somebody's got to police that, I guess.
Yeah, and again, if you are kind of communicating, we kind of have joked the last couple of days on this show that the dead period, is dead period officially, but there are some coaches that kind of have been known to skirt things around here and there over the years. But if you're in Kentucky, and again, you're not able to kind of contact direct, I'll be curious to see if that translates to other states going forward. And again, I see the merit across the board, but athletics is kind of a unique, I hate to use the term casualty, but kind of in a weird spot because of this. Who's not in a weird spot, Blaine? When did BYU become the it school? We've talked about their recruiting prowess. They've landed the #1 basketball prospect in the country, but they're up to their old tricks as Ryder Lyons, great football name, by the way. Ryder Lyons, he was the top-rated uncommitted quarterback in the country. He's uncommitted no longer. The Folsom, California native announcing, how about this? He's going on Pat McAfee to announce his recruiting. That certainly wasn't an option back when I was growing up. But he has announced he will go to BYU. He becomes the second highest ever quarterback prospect in the modern recruiting era to go to BYU, who was scrappy, who we've seen be very gamey over the last couple of years. Are we seeing BYU pour more into NIL? We saw it with basketball. Are we seeing them turn the corner at football now?
Yeah, I think one of the more interesting things out of this is the requirement that kind of comes with going to BYU, right? As reported by The Athletic and New York Times, Lyons heads to BYU after he serves a 1-year mission with the Mormon Church. So he threw for 3,000 yards and 46 touchdowns as a junior, also rushed for 585 yards and 14 scores. Wow, that is 60 touchdowns in a season? Woo! But I think I think it's interesting. I'm not sure if it was Pat Beverly that joked about this whenever is it AJ Dibansta? I
struggle with the pronunciation. But he's a stud.
I'll pick it up once he starts playing for BYU next year. Is that in Utah you're not running into a whole lot of distractions like you would at maybe a Power 4 school like a USC or as we've seen in Georgia, right? You're not running into those distractions just because it's a completely different culture in that state. I don't think that attracts student athletes. I think the dollar sign nowadays attracts student athletes, and these top prospects are getting thrown a lot of money by the boosters at BYU. So they're benefiting big time from the new age of college athletics.
Absolutely, and that's what will be fascinating. And football is the one sport where you can turn your roster over a little bit. You can improve, by certain measures. It is hard, unlike basketball, to really completely flip it in 1 year. And we're still talking about a 1 year mission involved, and we're also still talking about a recruit. I mean, sometimes they pan out, sometimes they don't. BYU has already been scrappy, but the fact you now have the goods at quarterback, that's got to be impressive as they have continued to play well.
And they weren't all that bad last year, really. I don't know their schedule offhand or their record, but let's see if I can pull it up here. Didn't they go to a bowl game?
I want to say BYU was they were undefeated till like week 9 of the season last year. They lost to Kansas and lost to Arizona State in consecutive weeks, and ended up playing Colorado and throttling them in the Alamo Bowl. BYU, they got off to a great start and played well. I don't know what their turnover situation looks like, roster turnover, that is. But as it sits, getting a new QB in the mix. We talked about their stud basketball recruit, number 1 player in the country coming in. Maybe that university in particular is on to something and cashing in the NIL. It would be fascinating to kind of see as we go forward.
AJ Dibansa is the pronunciation, I believe. Dibansa. Wanted to get that out before we moved on. I didn't want to totally butcher his name before he makes it big. Could be some good ammunition against me if I didn't make up for it there.
That's smart thinking on your behalf. He goes out and signs a massive NBA contract, and he might come for you, or, if you went back and took the time to correct, maybe he looks favorably upon you. So good on you there, Blaine, for that. Speaking of Blaine's wheelhouse, we have been talking football. The Tennessee Titans, right there in Blaine's wheelhouse, they announced earlier today that open dates are getting ready to come. They're going to especially celebrate Back Together Weekend at Nissan Stadium on Saturday, July 26th. Fans will have an opportunity to attend as many as 7 open practices. The first 6 of those, I mentioned the one at Nissan, but the other 6 will be at St. Thomas Sports Park. Practices are free to attend, but you do need to claim a ticket online. But Blaine, if you want to see these new look Titans, you got 6, 7 opportunities to see them this summer.
Wade, asking you here, your opinion as somebody who has seen the product that the Titans have put on the field from the press box as well the last couple of years. Is there a position group outside of quarterback that you're really looking forward to seeing as preseason kind of ramps up, seeing what can take shape out of there?
I'm not a guru of offensive line play by any means, and I feel like it's probably hard to it feels like to me it's hard to get a real grasp on a lot of stuff just from a practice. We can share Cam Ward dropping dimes at practice all day long, but until you see it in a real game situation, it doesn't kind of hit the same. I would like to see the offensive line. And again, I have no real frame of reference on how to grade if they would be better or not. But then the other one kind of is a byproduct of Cam Ward at quarterback. I'm curious about the receiver group. I want to see kind of how they look. They didn't necessarily go out and make a big splash like we saw them when they got Ridley last year. How do those guys look, and really just the rapport? I feel like you can get a little bit of a sense of where you stand in terms of rapport with your receivers from an open practice. Maybe not at the offensive line position, but I feel like that's at least a group to keep your eyes on.
You can look at Tyler Lockett in a practice and say, that guy looks pretty good. Didn't get a chance to see him a whole lot in OTAs and mini camp. So a practice would be a great time to see, can Tyler Lockett be a number 2 receiver for the Titans? Can Alec Iomanor or Kymir DK or Bryce Oliver's a name that's been thrown around and gaining traction in the receiver room. It feels pretty akin to last year in the fact that Calvin Ridley's a lock for the receiver room for the Titans, and the rest might be a little bit of a question mark. Same goes for offensive line. Question mark last year, but they've definitely beefed up that group. That'll be a good one to see as well.
Absolutely. And, we referenced his name yesterday when we talked about tight end university, but Gunnar Helm, can he become a guy that can do all the things that you expect out of a tight end, or is he more just purely a pass catcher? That's a sneaky guy to keep your eyes on. And then on defense, obviously, I feel like you kind of know what you got up front. Well, you literally know what you got up front in terms of beef with Simmons and Sweat there. Yeah, hard to miss those guys, to say the least. But a guy like Jarvis Brownlee Jr., can he continue? Man, he had such a great season, it felt like, last year as a rookie, kind of an unsung rookie in many regards. Do we see a little more oomph from him? It feels like, again, it's hard to tell on all of this stuff, and, every team can look great. We've seen teams go undefeated in the preseason and lose a ton of games in the regular season. It's hard to tell until they really count, but you have the opportunity to go out and see them. Those dates, Wednesday, July 23rd, Thursday, July 24th. You also got dates on Tuesday and Wednesday, the 29th and 30th, and then Saturday and Wednesday, August 2nd and 6th. But again, the big one they want to invite everybody out to is July 26th, as it's back together weekend at Nissan Stadium. Maybe Blaine and I will lather on the sunscreen and dare get out there. We can work on that as we get closer. Speaking of hot, it is hot on the NASCAR scene. It is hot on the track. They will be racing yet again this weekend. And to kind of help us recap what we saw at Pocono and to kind of get us prepped for this weekend, our good friend Heather Williams will join us on the other side of this timeout. We'll talk all things NASCAR when we come back after this. You're watching Main Street Sports Today, presented, as always, by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia.
Deep in a forest at Nashville Zoo, new creatures here for you to view. Phantoms graced in black and white swing high in trees of dappled light. In rocky crags, tall and steep, small antelopes with nimble feet. A wise old man with beard of white, a sentry perched on stony height. Amidst it all, a hunter lies, with coat of gold and steely eyes. A new adventure just for you. Leopard Forest at Nashville Zoo. Open now.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Hour number 2, Main Street Sports Today, presented by our friends at the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. We are off and we are rolling. Coming up at the final segment here, right at the top of the 4 o'clock hour, we will bring you the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest news that we could find from across the globe as part of Wild and Wacky Wednesday. Also part of our show each and every single Wednesday, it is our honor, it is our privilege to bring in our NASCAR expert. She is the one and only Heather Williams of WCYB. And she joins us now to bring us up to speed on all things NASCAR. Good afternoon, Heather. How we doing?
I'm doing well, but I feel like I need main billing on this Wednesday show because I'm on here more than you and Mo recently.
You know, I can't argue with that. I can't argue with that. You are our most recurring guest, our longest tenured guest, but you have also saved our bacon as Mo and I have been on vacay more often than not, it seems like lately.
I mean, I'm not mad. I'm jealous. Completely jealous.
You know, it ain't tricking if you got it, is what some would say. And right now, at least in the summer, we've been fortunate. But we're holding down the fort as best we can, and we certainly appreciate that. The real question is, when do you get a break? NASCAR has no break, seemingly. So when is your downtime?
I mean, honestly, from NASCAR, Christmas this week. I mean, stuff goes on all the time. Even when I'm on vacation, I'm usually working something NASCAR related. So not really from racing, never. But that's okay. I like it that way. I choose that life.
Right. I mean, I remember my mom telling me, I kind of watch her growing up watching NASCAR, and I was like, when's the break? And she's like, well, you got about 2 weeks, it feels like. It's kind of like golf. Once it's done, you get about a 2-week break, and then you're right back to it. There is no stop on the track.
Yep. At least I did a month. I did a month straight where I went to the track. I loved every minute of it. I would love to live that life, but that is a tough life to be on the road every week going to the track, being in a different city, being in hotels, that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's a crazy life.
I mean, it is same but different. You hear that about touring artists and musicians, right? I mean, the road will chew you up, it will spit you out because it is different town. The circus comes to a new town every single week. So props to those folks that are doing it on the regular, and props to you for doing it as much as you do. Speaking of NASCAR, man, what can you tell us about what we saw at Pocono, especially how about Chase Briscoe last weekend?
I mean, good on Chase, right? I mean, here's a guy who, when he was good equipment in the Xfinity Series and at Stewart-Haas Racing, all that guy did was win. And then by the time he got to the Cup Series, Stewart-Haas, that organization was on the downslide. He still managed to make the playoffs a couple of times and win races, but for the first time in his Cup Series career, he is in the best equipment in the garage, and he was feeling a lot of pressure to get a win. Right? He's run pretty well. He was in the playoffs, but he really felt the pressure to get that win and to lock in. And for him to do it at Pocono, a place that we don't necessarily associate as being one of Briscoe's better tracks, I think really shows how much he's improved and how much he continues to grow as he gets into his career now at Joe Gibbs Racing. So good on him. He's truly one of the good guys in the garage area. And so now he's a playoff driver, and he can sit back and try to collect more playoff points and bonus points and put himself in a good position once the playoffs start.
And as Briscoe, really, you just summed it up best, Heather. I mean, I didn't get to watch any of the race at Pocono, unfortunately, but just going through social, it seemed like every message that I saw was glowing. Good on Chase, as you said. Just seemed to be the overwhelming sentiment coming out of this weekend.
Yeah, he's really a good dude. I mean, when you talk to him and he needed that win. I mean, he basically said that on the Prime broadcast. He needed that win to take the monkey off his back. Now he can just go out there and race. And he's been performing. They haven't had the finishes necessarily that they thought that they should have, or maybe even that his team has deserved. So now to get a win at an unexpected place, now he can go to some of these tracks where he's really good and really chase after some wins and some points.
Chase, pun intended there.
Yes, absolutely.
Heather, I wanted to ask you one thing about something you reported on yesterday. Just how jarring does it look at Bristol Motor Speedway right now, seeing the construction that's going on there in preparation for that Braves-Reds game just down the road?
It's different. It's not different enough that it's jarring. The things that are crazy right now when you look at it is half of the Goodyear building's gone. That's the building that was in between turns 1 and 2. They are going to rebuild that when the series is over. And all of the lower pit wall is gone, and big chunks of the higher pit wall are gone. So that's really weird. But other than that, it just looks like there's a big gravel pile in the shape of a diamond right now as they're building it up. In a couple of weeks, when they start to lay the turf down, and once they had just started yesterday to kind of construct the walls, the outfield walls, and they laid while we were there the foundation for the right field foul pole. When those elements start going up, that's when it really starts to get weird. I was working here when they did the Battle of Bristol, and it was kind of the same thing, although the football field disrupted way less of the track than the baseball field did. The only thing that they really did was remove the old scoring pylon and put up Colossus, which is actually a massive improvement as far as scoring, timing, and scoring and video and that for the track. So it's going to be weird, but it's going to be really cool.
What's it been like kind of tracking that since that announcement? I mean, it feels like it's kind of been a pretty quick process overall. I mean, as somebody who's kind of more cemented in there, I mean, what's it kind of been like tracking the progress on that?
Yeah, it's been really fast. They made the announcement. I went back and looked yesterday. They made it in early June of 2024. So it's been a little over a year to get to this point. And the construction's going really quick. We were there 2 weeks ago when they were tearing down the Goodyear building, and just to see the progress that's happened even in those 2 weeks. And it's really going to start ramping up now, or I think that this week is when they officially handed over most of the processes to Major League Baseball for the construction of the field. So, and they have a tight window. I mean, they when we talked to them yesterday, you know, however weather goes, you know, they've got to have like 48 hours of completely dry weather to lay the clay. So if that means laying it at 2 a.m. because it's going to rain 2 days later, you know, they might be doing that at 2 a.m. You know, it's the same thing when they lay down the field turf. You know, it's got to be dry for a certain amount of time for all the workout and to work. Once they get to that point, then they can start constructing the mound and those kinds of things. And they said they could put up tents and tarps to do that. But the timeline is really tight. And on the back end, transforming it back to a racetrack is even tighter. So it's going to be fun. But their experience with that, with the Battle of Bristol, with moving the dirt in and out when they did the dirt racing. I mean, Bristol Motor Speedway knows how to do these transformations. So I don't have any concern that it'll get done. It's just wild to watch.
Wild to watch, I'm sure. And Heather, I hate to even bring this up. What happens if we get thunderstorms that weekend? Is there a contingency plan? What would be a contingency plan?
So the day after the game is a travel day for both teams. So I would assume that they would try to play it the next day. Now, the good news with the field turf, rather than trying to bring a grass field in there, is that if it rains, it wouldn't take that much time to turn it over that day, as long as there's no thunderstorms in the area, and still play that day. Even if it's raining a little bit, and again, no thunderstorms, they could probably play through the rain a little bit with it being turf instead of it being field turf or actual grass field. So fingers crossed that doesn't happen, but they do have that travel day the day after. I think they're going back to Cincinnati, if I'm not mistaken. So there would be an opportunity to get that game in on that off day.
And when you mentioned the turnaround, that's going to be even quicker for turning it back. When's the next event at the Speedway? And I mean, what's the timeline? I mean, have you kind of looked into what that would look like and getting that ready?
It's about 6 weeks. The next event is the night race, which is mid-September. So you're talking August 2nd to mid-September to turn that around. They rebuild the Goodyear building to get all that gravel and the field out, to tear down the walls, to build back up the pit walls and replace. They also pulled up a bunch of lighting in the infield. So to replace that lighting and some of the other things that they have removed. Plus they're building next to the stadium in that area off to from the picture that I took, if you're standing on the backstretch off to the right, they're going to build a concert stage because they're going to have 2 concerts pre-race in Pitbull and Tim McGraw. So, and that's going to be a big, huge professional concert stage with seating down around it on the ground level like you would have at a concert. You can also watch it from your seat if you have a ticket, but you can buy special tickets to be in that area. So it's going to be busy, but they can do it. Like I said, the turnaround, when they did the Battle of Bristol, the turnaround from the race, which was in August at the time, to the Battle of Bristol, I think was 3 weeks that they turned that from a racetrack to a football field. Now, there wasn't as much deconstruction and reconstruction involved in that. It was literally just building up the field and laying down the turf, the goalposts and some of the ancillary things. But it's going to be quick. The craziest thing that I learned yesterday, by the way, as I kind of ramble on a little bit, is they're actually going to build 2 complete professional clubhouses on the field adjacent to the dugout that are going to have everything that the regular clubhouse would have: workout equipment, saunas, hot cold tubs, lockers, the whole 9 yards, which is crazy for one game, right? But they're doing all of that, and I think that's wild.
That is certainly wild, but I mean, on one hand, it seems a little over the top for one game, like you mentioned, but also on the other hand, props for taking every kind of comfort and accommodation that you would expect playing at home or on the road.
Which Braves player demanded that, right? Or which Reds player said, I have to have my cold tub, not have the sauna?
It's somewhere in the players' agreement, right? It has to be in the collective bargaining, but it's crazy to think about that they're doing all of that work.
What provisions did they make for blooper is I think what a lot of Braves fans might want to know, because there's a great picture of blooper and Mr. Red posing yesterday on your timeline.
Which one? Whether they're posing, the one where blooper was stalking Mr. Red.
That was a good one.
I turned around and he's just behind Mr. Red going. It's very creepy.
Oh, yeah, I'm seeing that one now. I only saw the one of them being nice and cozy and friendly. Yeah, now blooper in his construction vest here. He's got a little creep to his game right now.
They were both really fun. They both took their turns up at the podium, too, trying to take over the event.
They're two of the best, the blooper for sure. Speaking of blooper, kind of in a different sense, though, I guess, Heather, one of the other big headlines I saw coming out this weekend, what in the world happened with Brad Keselowski last weekend and the pit situation there?
He didn't realize pit road was closed. I mean, they have it's not like there used to be a guy standing there with a flag. Now it's a bunch of lights, and he just missed his lights and just drove right through when pit road was closed. It was his spotter said, we're pitting next time. He thought that meant next lap instead of, when it's open. And it was just Brad took responsibility for it, miscommunication. He thought pit road was open. He wasn't paying attention to his or just missed his lights. And we've all accidentally run a red light before. So, it's kind of the same thing, right? You're not paying attention. You're like, oh, I'm glad nobody hit me and I didn't hit anyone. So same thing. He just wasn't paying close enough attention and blew through the closed pit road.
Still got him back to ninth for what it's worth.
Yeah. Still had a great car. One of the best cars he's had in a while. They're actually finally turning it around. He's going to have to win to dig himself out of the hole that he's in. But they're actually starting to turn it around a little bit and get some good runs with the 6 car.
Yeah, I was just going to say, speak for yourself on the red light thing. I plow through yellow. I never end up on red. I'm past the line.
Well, not when I'm not like trying to run a light, but there's been times where I've just been like, especially, I don't know, I just like the yellow, the turn lane light goes on and you look up and you're like, start to go and you're like, oh crap, that's them, not me.
I rear-ended somebody off of that exact situation actually. So yeah.
It happens. As long as nobody gets hurt, thankfully, or no car damage, then,
Heather, you've talked to us a lot about Kyle Larson, and this kind of blew my mind. Last 4 races, Nashville, Michigan, Mexico, and Pocono, led 0 laps. How mind-blowing is that? And kind of, is he in a funk, or what's the deal with him right now?
He's in a slump, but I feel like everybody at some point in the season goes through a little bit of slump. It's a long season, right? The Penske cars are kind of, Blaney's win at Nashville notwithstanding, Penske cars are kind of in a little bit of slump. And, it's part of the season. You can't be perfect and on for 36 straight weeks. It's a long time. And a lot of times some of these cars or teams might experiment with something or try something that might help them in the playoffs, especially when they're locked in. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. They'll figure it out. He's Kyle Larson and it's Hendrick Motorsports. So I think that they'll get it straightened out. I just think they're in a little bit of a mid-season slump. What's going to be interesting about this year, though, because I mentioned those 2 groups being in a little bit of a slump, is that usually you kind of get away with a little bit of a summer slump. We have this in-season tournament that starts this week in Atlanta, and there's $1 million on the line for the winner of this in-season tournament. Kyle Larson and Tyler Reddick are matched up in the first round. So, there's some pretty heavyweight first-round matchups and $1 million on the line at the end of this 4-week tournament. So you can't really, you could. It doesn't mean anything in points in the grand scheme of things, but I think everybody wants $1 million. So it adds an interesting twist this summer.
It sounds like that's a head-to-head format based on what you just said.
It's a March Madness bracket. It's 32 teams or 32 race teams. And and they were seeded over the last 4 weeks. It's your best finish over the last 4 weeks. So Denny Hamlin's the number 1 seed. Chase Briscoe's the number 2. Shane Van Gisbergen did not make the in-season tournament. So even though he won, he's not in there. So so there are, like I said, Larson and Reddick both kind of struggled a little bit over the last few weeks, and they're meeting in the first round. I think Joey Logano, and I'm trying to think who he's meeting because it's somebody pretty big. I know Logano has a first round matchup that's pretty tough. Bubba Wallace and Daniel Suarez are meeting in the first round. There's some pretty good matchups right off the bat, and some matchups that are primed for upsets, because you have to think about the tracks that are in this, right? So just look, for instance, 1 versus 32, Denny Hamlin versus Ty Dillon. Well, on paper, you say Denny Hamlin. But I think if you looked at their stats over the super speedway over the last 2 years, I think Ty Dillon's stats are way better than Denny Hamlin's. So, that could be a possible upset right in the first round, which makes this really interesting.
Joey Logano's got Alex Bowman.
Yeah,
that's age 25 matchup in the first round.
which is wild. That's a wild first round matchup.
Yeah, what do we have historical data? The 12-5 upset. We don't have that just yet, Heather. It sounds like
not just yet, but we will certainly have some data to talk about next week, because I filled out kind of just a little bracket for fun, and I've got quite a few upsets in the first round. I just think that because of the nature of where we're starting at in Atlanta, it seats some of these underdog teams pretty well.
Who's your champion?
Yeah, give us the deets.
My champion was Christopher Bell.
Bell is the
4 or 5 seed.
Looking 4 seed. Yes, the 4 seed.
So Ricky Stenhouse is not going to upset Christopher Bell this weekend, you're telling us.
I mean, he could. He's certainly a good enough super speedway racer, but Bell won the last time they were in Atlanta. And really, when I just looked at it, this group of tracks really fits him probably better than anyone else in the because Bell is so good on a number of different types of tracks. There's 2 road courses, if you consider Chicago a road course.
Okay.
The super speedway, and Bell is good on both those types of tracks. I just think that this section of tracks we're racing just fits him the best.
That was my next question is there a road component here? Because if we're really getting in the weeds on this, if you can survive or, make it to a certain round, then you could run up against a specialist, or a specialist might be able to do some damage here. I find that part kind of really intriguing.
Yeah, I have Michael McDowell going really, really deep for the same reasons. He's really good on super speedways, and he's really good on road courses. And so I think that these group of tracks fit Michael pretty well, as in addition to Christopher Bell.
I love that. We got March Madness, but in the middle of June at 200 miles an hour and 500 degrees.
I mean, what more could you ask for?
As long as they don't they're not talking about expanding the tournament yet already, are they?
I mean, there's not really any more people. There's only like 36 full-time teams. I don't think they can expand it much more than 32.
Okay. That's in the discussion. It feels like they're always looking to expand March Madness. So,
Yes.
maybe as long as we can keep it at a nice, comfy 32, I like what you just said there.
I think there's only 4 teams that didn't make the tournament, so I think we're good.
Send up some of the Menard Series racers. Let's get them in on this too. They'd like $1 million.
Oh, sure. I think that some of the Xfinity Series drivers would probably like that.
them too.
Justin Allgaier $1 million. I think he'd take that.
Hey, speaking of Xfinity, what about our boy Dale Jr.? Give us a rundown on Connor Zilich kind of making Dale a proud guy this weekend.
Yeah, it was a great story. I mean, I think we all know that Dale wasn't actually calling the shots, right? I mean, he had his crew chief on Messenger, or however, I know they're not allowed to be on the headset, but cell phone Messenger. I think some of the teams use, Facebook Messenger to communicate during the races, that kind of stuff. He also had Stevie Letarte sitting on the box with him, helping him call the race. So there's a fun little story and a great little nugget. How many people can say they've won a champion or won a race as an owner, a driver, and a crew chief? And Dale has done all of those things, and he was super involved in it. Like, the thing I love about Dale when he does something, when he was in the Daytona 500, he was there at 7:00 in the morning when his team was going through inspection, and the same thing as a crew chief. Like, he's there, he's all in. So it's a fun story, even though, again, he probably really wasn't doing the actual making the calls. It was still great and fun, and I cannot believe Connor won. I mean, the kid's a talent. Like, he's going to be a superstar in the sport. He's as good or has as much talent. I shouldn't say as good, because Shane's much further along in his career, but has the same kind of talent on the road courses as a Shane Van Gisbergen, and he's farther along on the ovals. And so I think he's going to be a superstar, and he's going to have to, Trackhouse is going to have to find a place for him somewhere, or they're going to lose him.
Heather, as we get ready to close, we'd be remiss if we didn't ask. Give us your thoughts, give us your takeaways, maybe even a small prediction for the Quaker State 400 down in Atlanta this weekend.
Chaos. That's my prediction. I mean,
I'm here for it.
Atlanta is Daytona on steroids, right? It's all the chaos of Daytona and half the size. It is the track is starting to wear a little bit, so it's not. I think it's still going to be pack racing, but not quite those huge packs like you saw as Daytona. The more that it wears, but it's still chaos. It's always mass chaos. I love Atlanta. I think Atlanta is best at night, so I'm so glad that they've moved this to a night race, because I think that track is gorgeous and amazing at night. And I think there are certain guys that are really good at that style of super speedway racing, which isn't exactly the same as your Daytona Talladega super speedway racing. Christopher Bell, Chase Elliott, those two guys have won on this new Atlanta. Corey LaJoie is in this race. He darn near won the first time or the second time in the summer when they raced on this new configuration at Daytona. Michael McDowell, as I mentioned, I think is really good down there. So I think you're going to see the same players that are always players in Atlanta, but not necessarily the same super speedway players, which I think is going to make for a really interesting race. But I couldn't even begin to predict this one, because it's even more unpredictable, more chaotic than Daytona or Talladega.
I love that. Just step away and watch the chaos unfold.
Yes, for sure.
That can draw me in. I don't necessarily have to worry about a prediction. I can just watch the carnage.
Yeah.
So looking forward to that. Heather Williams of WCYB Sports out of Johnson City brings us the goods each and every single Wednesday, all things NASCAR, a little bit of baseball, and you never know what else. Heather, thank you for holding down the fort in mine and Mo's absence over these last couple of weeks. Hopefully we'll get the whole gang back together next Wednesday.
Get the band back together. Not that I haven't enjoyed the guest hosts. They've all been great. They bring good questions. It's been really fun. But it is a little weird. Like, it is just a little weird. Like, I never know exactly who's going to pop up in that upper right-hand corner.
It's kind of the part of the magic, too. I mean, and it's on Wild and Wacky Wednesday, so it fits with all of that, I suppose. Heather, thank you for your time as always.
Thanks guys.
Appreciate it. That was, again, Heather Williams of WCYB Sports out of Johnson City. Give us an update. Blaine, I don't know about you, but I kind of want to fill out a bracket right now. I'm just, if you give me 32 things, it doesn't matter what it is. I kind of just have that innate desire to fill out a bracket. So I might have to fill one out by the time we get started this weekend.
You think the people of Hendersonville would burn me at the stake if I didn't pick Josh Berry here? He's the 21 seed, so the odds are not necessarily in his favor, but I might get in some trouble if I don't pick Josh to win it all.
Yeah, we'll circle back maybe tomorrow and see if we put together a bracket. But yeah, you probably should go with the hometown guy, lucky number 21 maybe. Something good for him there.
Who knows,
so,
right?
You never know. We're going to take a quick timeout, folks. It'll be our final timeout. When we come back, Blaine and I will close the show with the weirdest, the wildest, the wackiest, and the most wondrous news from across the globe. It's part of Wild and Wacky Wednesday. We bring it home on the other side of this timeout. Main Street Sports Today is presented by TOA of Columbia.
Being in Tennessee, we wanted to try to keep it as local as possible, so we have an entire section of our menu that is just dedicated to local whiskeys like Uncle Nearest, Jack Daniels, of course, George Dickel, Nelson Brothers, Greenbrier whiskey, and all of our taps are all local. From 2 o'clock until midnight, we've got food every day for you guys. A good handful of appetizers, some entrees, and a couple salads and things like that. My name is Ethan Kanata. Please come down and see us at the Pick Lobby Bar here at the Omni in Nashville.
At Delta Dental of Tennessee, we know our success begins and ends with providing superior quality service, and that includes serving those who need it most. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of giving back to the community we call home. Delta Dental, along with our Smile 180 Foundation, supports Tennessee's dental colleges and oral health education, children's hospitals, free and reduced cost dental clinics, and other like-minded charities. Here's to the next 25 plus years of ensuring healthy smiles.
There's a line that links us all. Most of the time, we don't even think about it, but it's everywhere. Illuminating our neighborhoods, empowering our businesses, and helping us to recharge. Whether it comes from our grids, the sun, or a kind heart, we believe in the power of good energy. And as your family and region continue to grow, you can trust that we'll always be there for you. Middle Tennessee Electric, bringing good energy.
Final segment, boys and girls, on this wild and wacky Wednesday here. You're watching Main Street Sports Today, presented as always by our friends at the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Alongside Blaine Kellar, Wade Neely saying hello. And Blaine, it's time to get weird. It's time to get wild and wacky. Are you ready for what's about to unfold?
You left out wondrous. It's time to get wondrous too, Wade.
Well, one of these stories is wondrous. I'll let our viewers kind of determine perhaps which. But we like to start with sports when we can. And this was a story I teased on the show yesterday. We were going to throw it in with David during a segment that we had. But we held it for Wild and Wacky Wednesday because, Blaine, I want to ask you, would you pay $1,000 to not go to a game, not watch a game, but celebrate a game? Because that is what FIFA is doing. They are charging $1,000 for what they call their silver category, up to $2,000 for platinum, or if you want to be a real fancy pants, $3,000 for a black category entry, just to simply celebrate the FIFA Club World Cup. What the hell is that about?
This is wild. This is wacky. This is not wondrous at all. This is wasteful. That's another W in there.
There we go.
Looks like Rita Ora. If you've ever heard of her, apparently a British pop star, will headline the event. Also got some in the black category, I suppose, or just on the promotion of the Facebook page. It says the VIP event will gather legends of the game, FIFA's top leadership, and a hand-picked guest list of international figures. Notice that none of those people are named. So this smells like wasteful to me. I think the only time I'd spend a whole band on a sporting event, Wade, would maybe be courtside for an NBA game. I mean, that would probably be about the only time I could drop 4 zeros on something.
Yeah, I'm with you. We've talked and kind of roasted even a little bit this week and on this show today, the Club World Cup, and kind of, is it a thing? Is it not a thing? And this just reeks to high heavens of not being a thing. Seems like a real money grab. But if you're in the market, you can spend $1,000 and you can go to a fancy gala. It's not even held at the same time. It's held 3 days before the championship game. So you're not even watching the game. You're just going to a dinner, quote unquote, as FIFA says, celebrating the Club World Cup. Speaking of sports, one other story that we wanted to make mention. I apologize if this was brought up last week, but I do got to make mention of the fact, the Florida Panthers, 2 straight championships. They've hoisted Lord Stanley, and Lord Stanley is famous for its travels. It's famous for things that have happened, but apparently it's been cracked and dented. Not for the first time and likely not the last, as teams have kind of gone around and done all kinds of things, taking it on roller coasters and doing who knows what with it. Part of the lore of Lord Stanley is what they have done. But one clip we did want to share, Blaine, you might have seen this clip, but I wanted to bring it to our viewers' attention. If you are a neighbor of a certain Florida Panther player, you might have got an early wake-up call the other night. Producer Mark has the goods. So this is Alexander Barkov rolling up to his neighbor's house. They say somewhere between 4 and 5 a.m. The Ring camera's going off. You're thinking, oh my, okay, some neighborhood no-gooder rolling around.
Yes, he's coming.
But then Lord Stanley's right there, Blaine. Lord Stanley brought to your doorstep. If you're a neighbor, I'm not answering my door for anything, but if Lord Stanley shows up at my doorstep, I might take a chance. Barkov bringing the goods to his neighbors at 5 a.m.
What good did this neighbor have to do to Alexander Barkov for him to want to show him the Stanley Cup trophy, right? And how can I apply this tactic to my professional neighbor? Not that I have one. But in the event that I did, I need to take notes here and figure out how I can get, any sort of trophy hand delivered to my door.
Yeah, I'm with you. I heard somebody else say on a different show, maybe that neighbor left their garage door open and or Barkov left his garage door open and Barkov's neighbor said, hey, your garage door open. He did some kind of kindness, that is for sure, to get a wake-up call from Lord Stanley. Moving right along, we close. This is in the realm of wondrous, perhaps, and it's right up Blaine's alley, ladies and gentlemen. We go to Hempstead, New York, where a high school will be celebrating its graduation. You might be seeing double. Among the 500 students, nearly 500 students in their graduating class, 30 of them at Long Island, Plainview, Old Bethpage, John F. Kennedy High School are twins. They've known each other since kindergarten. Their parents have met through a local club. Some of them even planned vacations together. Blaine Kellar, noted twin on this show.
Yes. Yeah.
How was your graduation, and how many twins were also a part of your graduating class?
We had one other set. They didn't graduate with us. They were a few years younger, alums of Springfield High School. But I think we were the only one. And I remember more so trying to know my class rank to figure out if I was higher or lower than my twin brother, Zachary. So that I'm pretty sure I was lower on scoring wise and GPA. I remember. I don't even think, honestly, that we sat next to each other. We're very close, but I think for some reason they didn't put us right next to each other for the ceremony, which I remember being kind of strange. What I find even stranger, even wilder or wackier, that this Plainview Old Bethpage school had back-to-back graduating classes with 10 sets of multiples in 2014 and 2015. Next year's class, according to the Associated Press, 9 sets of twins. What, is it something in the water?
Yeah, something's up there. I don't know if this is a transfer deal where they've garnered such a claim that twins are transferring in left and right. Imagine the pranks.
Here.
Imagine the pranks. I can only imagine the stuff that goes on in the halls with that many. But again, that school had 30 twins in one graduating class. That is bonkers to think
I would
about.
say they're probably the teachers are accustomed to it now. They know how to tell twins apart. Because I could get away with that for a couple of minutes when I was in high school, swapping classes or something like that. But I don't think these twins are caught up on Plainview Old Bethpage.
They are up to something. We appreciated the shout out to the twins of the world. We wanted to give Blaine that one. Thank you, folks, for tuning in to Wild and Wacky Wednesday. Blaine and I will return tomorrow for Throwback Thursday. Brandon Bassham, Eagleville baseball coach, will join us alongside Scott Combs and Bill Riddle, 2 coaches here in the Mid-State. It's part of Throwback Thursday. We'll see you next time on Main Street Sports Today, presented by TOA of Columbia.